The space race was more than just two countries seeing who could gain control of space. If one could launch something into space, it meant that they could strike any target within another country. This was very concerning because of the age of nuclear weapons that could annihilate the world. The space race was not just about countries trying to develop military weapons, it was about them being able to demonstrate their superiority in general. The space race was also about proving that one form of government was better than another. Nikita Khrushchev, the premier of the Soviet Union, said that the economy, science, culture, and creative genius of the people in all areas of life developed better and faster under communism. He was not alone in stating that his form of government was better than the others. JFK said, "Everything we do ought to be tied into getting on the moon ahead of the Russians. We hope to beat the USSR to demonstrate that instead of being behind a couple of years, by God, we passed them." The American space race was led by Wernher von Braun. Wernher von Braun was from Germany and developed the V 2 program there. The story in which he got snuck out of Germany is very interesting. He was supposed to destroy all the records of the V 2 program, including all the extra parts that they had laying around. However, he arranged to have them all transported on a train to surrender to the Americans. He also loaded this train with all the scientists that were part of his group to allow them to continue their work within the US. Up until the Korean War, von Braun had not been able to perfect his V 2 rocket. However, the Korean War gave him the time and the resources. Because of these resources, he was able to create the Jupiter C, which could have easily sent a satellite into space. However, Eisenhower did not want this. When Sputnik was launched on October 4th, 1957, it changed everything. NASA was founded in direct response to this launch. NASA was founded on the idea of an act to provide for research into the problems of flight within and outside of the Earth's atmosphere and for other purposes. NASA was also founded to help create technologies that would aid in national defense because of the increased tensions in the Cold War. The first project NASA did was Project Mercury. It was NASA's test to see if humans could travel in space. On May 5, 1961, Alan B. Shepard Jr. became the first American to fly into space. He spent 15 minutes in suborbital. John H. Glenn Jr. became the first U.S. astronaut to orbit the Earth on February 20, 1962. Gemini built on Mercury's achievements and provided more data into the risk and other factors that were presented in space travel. Gemini 4 had the first ever spacewalk on June 3, 1965, when Edward H. White Jr. conducted the spacewalk. Apollo became NASA's priority on May 25, 1961, when JFK announced, "I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth." During this time, the USSR had also made some leaps and bounds. Sputnik 2 included a live payload. It included Leaky, who was a dog found in the capital of Moscow and was sent into space. It was the first time that a living organism had been into the depths of space. Apollo 11 was the first Apollo mission that sent a man to the moon. It was launched on top of a Saturn V rocket. The crew of Apollo 11 was made up of Neil Armstrong, who was the mission commander and was the first man to walk on the moon. Michael Collins was the command module pilot and did not touch the moon. Buzz Aldrin was the lunar module pilot and was second man to walk on the moon. This event changed history forever. At 9:32, Apollo 11 took off and 12 minutes later was into space. 2 hours and 42 minutes later, Houston approved for the craft to leave the orbit of Earth and start its trip to the moon. After revolving around the moon 3 times, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong went into the lunar module and began preparing for its descent. Initially on the way down, The landing computer was scheduling to take them to a rocky part that could have damaged the craft. However, with 119 seconds left, Armstrong took over the controls manually and landed the craft with only 45 seconds left of fuel. Soon after, he made his famous quote while stepping onto the moon. In the following video, Neil Armstrong takes his first step and changes history.
I'm going to step off the limb. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Columbia, this is Houston, AOS, over.
Houston, Columbia on the high gain, over.
Roger, the EVA is progressing beautifully. They're setting up the flag now. I guess you're about the only person around that doesn't have TV coverage of the scene.
That's all right, I don't mind a bit.
They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on the lunar surface.
Are you getting a TV picture now, Houston?
Neil, yes, we are getting a TV picture. You're in our field of view now.
I'd like to evaluate the various paces that a person can traveling on the lunar surface. You do have to be. All right, you do have to be rather careful to keep track of where your center of mass is. Sometimes it takes about 2 or 3 paces to make sure that you've got your feet underneath you. And about 2 or 3 or maybe 4 easy paces can bring you to a fairly smooth stop. It's like a football player, you just have to put out to the side and cut a little bit.
In conclusion, this technology developed for the space race could have also been used for military purposes. Thus, the space race was really a continuation of the arms race of the Cold War. The space race was really just a competition between the two nations to prove what type of government was the best.